Every night, I tell my daughter a bedtime story, a parable. Para meaning protecting against, and bull meaning, well, you know what bull means. Tonight's story is called The Cruise.
Daddy, Daddy, would you tell me a bedtime story?
Sure, sweetheart. Once upon a time...
Daddy, I had a rough time at school today, and my brain is tired. So I just want a simple story. I don't want to learn a lesson. I'm not in the mood for Dostoevsky.
I understand.
Do you?
Of course.
Okay, continue.
Once upon a time, Chris and Terry went on a Caribbean cruise. As their beautiful ship left port, the weather was perfect, and they looked forward to a week of fun. But on the second day of the cruise, as the sun came up, they were awakened by screams and calls for help. The ship was sinking. Minutes later, the ship disappeared under the waves, and Chris and Terry found themselves alone in a small life raft. Then Chris saw 4 men swimming toward them, and Terry saw 4 other men swimming toward them from the opposite direction. Without hesitation, Chris and Terry began paddling toward the closer group. A minute later, the 4 men pulled themselves onto the raft, and after catching their breath, they threw Chris and Terry into the water. As Chris and Terry were drowning, they heard a voice say, "You're going to get a do-over." And in an instant, they again found themselves alone in the small life raft, and again they saw the 2 groups of men swimming toward them. This time, they began paddling toward the group that was farther away. They reached the men, and all 6 people were eventually rescued. Sadly, the other 4 men drowned. Later, Chris and Terry were arrested and found guilty of a hate crime, since they had chosen to rescue the Christian men rather than the others. Of course, at the time of the rescue, they didn't know that one group was Christian and the other was not. But that didn't matter. It was obvious to everyone that Chris and Terry hated the religion of the second group, whatever it was. As they headed to prison, they heard a voice that said, "You're going to get another do-over." And in an instant, Chris and Terry again found themselves alone in the small life raft. They saw the 2 groups of men swimming toward them, and without hesitation, they began furiously paddling away from both groups. The 8 men drowned, but Chris and Terry lived happily ever after. The end.
Daddy, that was a terrible story.
Did you learn anything?
I don't think so.
What do you think Chris and Terry should have done?
I don't know. All of the choices were bad. Why did the men throw them overboard? And why were Chris and Terry sent to prison for helping people?
I don't know, sweetheart.
I guess some people are just bad crazy.
Ah, so you did learn something after all.